Good morning. Welcome to the final step of the reverse engineering project that you're going to complete for this trimester. There is one more step that we won't have time for this try, but we'll start that right away at the beginning of third try. So this is 6.4, the structural analysis, and it is going to take you by far the longest of each of these projects. The big thing here is that this is going to be due on March 1st. I know the due date here says February 28th. The problem there is that they haven't set Canvas for the new end day of the trimester yet. So hopefully they do fix that so we can get these turned in. But it is due February 1st, not the 28th. So in this activity, you're going to start the disassembly of your product. While you're doing this, it's going to be important that you take detailed notes of how it works. So there's a quote I like from Adam Savage from Mythbusters that kind of gives you the reason we need to do that. So remember, unless you're taking detailed notes of this project, all you're doing is screwing around and tearing apart a car. So that's the big part of this. You have to be taking the notes. So eventually you're going to be modeling these parts in Inventor, but for right now what I need to see from each of these parts is taking a picture of each part. One of the really important things that I want you to make sure of is to show any important features in detail. You're going to want to take more than one picture for each of these parts. If two parts connect, make sure you show how they do that. If any parts have wear or are broken, and you might need to note that so you can fix them in the future, note that as well. Take detailed pictures of those. The next step is going to be to create detailed sketches of each of these parts. Again, that's sketches plural, not just one. For sure, you're going to want to include an isometric sketch of each one, and you're probably going to include a few orthographic projections, the multi-view sketches. Again, make sure you're labeling these and taking notes. What does each part, or what does each component of the part do? What is it made out of? How does it work? Along with that, make sure you're including dimensions. Any dimension that you think is going to be important to make the part in Inventor, you want to start recording those now. This would also be a good time to make sure you're talking to your partner. If two pieces have to fit together, make sure you've communicated on those dimensions so that they actually will fit together. And then the final step of this is going to be the Inventor model. This is something I really do want you to split up and not have one person do. So for each of these parts, you're going to want to model it in Inventor. Make sure you're selecting the material. Make sure you're making it look like the real part. But most importantly is getting those dimensions. They should look like the real product. So again, there's a handout for this one. Make sure you read through it all the way. The introduction just kind of states a little bit about reverse engineering, why we might want to reverse engineer a product. Make sure you use your engineering notebook. You're going to be taking a lot of notes. For us, you're not going to need those if you're using the Onma blocks. Just make sure you put it back together and put it away every day. You won't need any hand tools to disassemble those products. If you've brought in your own product, we've talked about it already, so you should have anything you need there. Graph paper, remember if you need any of that, it's over by the printer. That can be really nice for drawing those isometric sketches. And again, here's the procedure. Make sure you're taking these notes. So one or more pictures of the part to include the pictures that show how it fits together. You need an isometric sketch or more to communicate the operation, and carefully measuring the part, including those dimensions on the sketch. You're going to need more dimensions than you think you are. I realize there's going to be no way that you've found them all. You're going to have to go back to the product and look for some that you've probably missed when you go to actually model the part, but try to be as detailed as possible. You want to include everything that you have to now if you can. Step 3 is for my own personal benefit. Name these parts in a way that makes sense. If you have a wheel, name it wheel. Don't give it a name that means nothing to someone reading it. That is poor communication and does not go over well in a workplace. Make sure you provide any additional details that you need. Again, these are part of the notes on your sketch. And then you're going to want to take pictures of those sketches. So eventually you do have to turn these in, and so we need to make sure we take pictures of the sketches. After you've done those things, then you can go on Inventor and start modeling the parts. Down here, just have an example sketch of what's going on with one of these, what yours should look like. They did theirs on grid paper. You could certainly use isometric paper if you want, but you'll notice they have some important dimensions all over the place here. They have some notes about how things work. So here, 45-degree angle is a necessity. necessary for clearance. So you know that is an important part. It's not just there for style, it has to be there. Why is it there? Just general notes about things that are going on. These are kind of hard to read, but make it matter to your project. To turn this in, the last step here is obviously to turn this in. Once you have your pictures, your sketch, and your inventor files for each part, then you need to turn these in. What I would suggest is to make a Google Doc and to put the pictures and the drawings in the Google Doc along with a label of what each part is. And that should match. If you're saying this is the wheel, then the inventor file that you turn in should also be named wheel. Give these things real names. Take this a little bit more seriously. This is part of the communication that you're expected to show. So again, this is 50 points. So this is a big part of your grade for this trimester. And it is due March 1st, not February 28th. The one thing to keep in mind here, you are not going to be perfect on these parts. If you try to make everything perfect and you don't get done by the 1st, that's going to affect your grade. I realize nothing is perfect, so don't spend too much time making them perfect. Keep track of your time and make sure you have a plan to get this done before the due date.